Hey, what's up? It's Quirked Up GIF-tuber, the VTuber GIF on the PNG background. If you're a fan of Carson, or if you're Carson yourself, there's a new video, new for me, new for this time and space in February 13th, 2026. So, in that video, there's this idea of taking a Genie wish and trying to make it output the most optimal good. And in the video there's also this concept of simulating the hunt, where like somebody goes around, they feel compulsed to simulate the tribal feeling of hunting for food, hunter-gathering with bureaucratic actions like going to Walmart. And there's this idea of wishing the Genie for simulating the hunt to be eradicated so that everybody no longer needs to simulate the hunt. They all truly hunt. And that is fascinating to me. And I quite like that. So that was his first idea. That was the first idea. And the second idea was possibly wishing for everyone to get maximal pleasure and then instantly dying. And that one I don't like very much. I don't like that idea, because that posits pleasure as a higher good than life itself. Like, life is subject to pleasure, and that I frankly don't enjoy. I feel like love is the one thing I might consider as higher than life, because frankly you need to, at the beginning of time and everything, if you start with a figure that's omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, all that, that figure would know that they could spawn the satisfaction of creation without creating. There would be nothing stopping the figure from spawning the pleasure of creation without creating at all. And obviously that figure that is omniscient, if that figure exists in that state of being, that clearly wasn't the case. It's clear that this life was made for life's sake. So frankly, life is only trumped by the figure that lifed for life's sake in this scenario. So I thought that I'd read a comment that I wrote on the video just to clarify on a couple of these concepts. So I'm going to begin. Simulating the hunt is a phrase I've heard before. There's a whole field of philosophy about that called primitivism. People in that field believe that our natural and primal state is our highest good. Some people take it into the realm of politics and call that anarcho-primitivism. Those people believe that somehow humanity should return to a pre-hierarchic tribalism. It's an interesting dilemma because we have no way to cross-reference happiness from ancient fossils. We can make assumptions or educated guesses, seeing whether or not a skeleton indicates a painful life. But there's examples of people today who are suffering happily, bodily harm. And most of the data we have is for stability. The tribal life was a stable one, having lasted for several more years than modern civilization. But stability says nothing of happiness. For instance, a tribal person can't treat their depression or schizophrenia with industrial medication. People in ancient times often had to resort to starting religions as a coping mechanism for their mental illness, the spirits that spoke to them, for instance. We see bipolar people today that randomly claim that they're the embodiment of God, and I'm confident that phenomenon didn't randomly start after modern civilization. Like, it didn't start after modern civilization. We still have the same biological structure, the same capacity for a little glitch in biology. So I imagine it's possible someone might do Yeshu's 40-day fast, something Jatendra Das accomplished in 1929 with 23 more days than Yeshu, then feel confident they're more than human. After doing that, this hypothetical person could run around claiming they're the Messiah, and then people might believe them. Then this person might say something messed up like, quote, even violent marriages must end in death unless there's infidelity, unquote, and spawn a sex cult that treats marriage as reproductive slavery. This figure might have a mentor that dies of beheading, with a cult of their own obsessed with bathing and cleanliness instead of reproductive slavery, though there would be likely an influence from something akin to Judaism that still puts that in place at some capacity, something like Mandeanism. And later that figure might be executed in a gruesome fashion. This figure's cult might go on to claim that the non-mentor figure is a false prophet, while the cult of the non-mentor figure continues to quote the mentor, saying there is none better than the mentor. This is something that might cause a schism where the two cults diverge for thousands of years, with a tremendous death toll attributed to the cult of the figure and a diminutive death toll attributed to the mentor's cult. All because of someone who performs an extraordinary, humanly accomplishable feat while unmedicated, and then feeling compelled to ramble to the nearest set of ears due to mania. All this seems unlikely, but it's a humanly possible series of events for an anarcho-primitivist society, or an ancient society in this hypothetical. I feel compelled to turn this hypothetical into a short story. Would you be interested in something like that? I wouldn't be making it to dog on Christianity, but instead to explore a humanly possible hypothetical, something to speak on the nature of humanity. I'm sure Christians might enjoy the story as something like an Antichrist's tragedy story, but I'll be viewing it more neutral. My hypothetical figure is just a person, mentally ill in just the right time and space to spawn an entire religion. I can explore an anarcho-primitivist society after an apocalyptic event where most of science and literacy is lost. I'm imagining a Carrington event strikes Earth and shuts down all the power on the same day as a violent class revolt, and the survivors lose virtually all modern technology in the process. It's meant to ask, is this a good thing? Anyways, when I consider your wishes, it's interesting how you frame your highest good. From memory, you started with pleasure. Everyone getting maximum pleasure and instantly dying sounds like it's better than everyone getting maximum suffering forever. But when you phrase it as utilitarian, it's interesting how you weigh this pleasure as exactly as a human life. How would you weigh something like true universal forgiveness against that pleasure and instant death? Zeno of Citium once said, happiness is a good flow of life, and I'm not compelled to disagree. Imagine if everyone was doing positive tasks in a perfect athlete-level flow state that never stops, all instantly forgiving their circumstance and acting accordingly. One with the Tao, so to speak. I'm not sure yet, but I might wish for something that does that. 3 wishes would only make 3 times as complicated, believe me. Meditating on this for years has brought me to a point where I believe that one might as well subscribe to a good that transcends comprehension. My highest good, the one that I hesitate to ask for the least, is that which is true despite my level of understanding. My lesser good, the one for comprehension, is that oneness I described above. That means I'd try my best to ask for what causes the maximal good regardless of my opinion. And if that doesn't work, or if it's against the Genie's rules, I'll opt for my lesser good. This hierarchy is how I've come to understand my higher powers and my connection to them. and I think it's a system that's compatible with a variety of faiths and philosophies. I hope it helps you connect more with what you find meaningful." End quote. So that's the comment, and I still stand by it. It's been an hour times 11 since I posted it and edited it, and I'm not sure if Carson has read it yet, but I felt like reading it as a video script, so I edited. Screw it, I might as well read this as a video script. It's been a day and I've sat with the thought long enough, I might as well. So I did. I went and did that, and then I went and puppeted a GIF to my audio, and I put that over some footage of Superhot gameplay with some guitar, and that's going to be a video. That's going to be a video called Explaining the Perfect Genie Wish in X number of minutes. And in the process, I'm gonna make a little thumbnail on a sketchbook. I'm gonna doodle it out, and it's gonna be 1920 by 1080, and it's going to be resized to 1280 by 720 in the thumbnail, and I'm gonna post it. I'm going to have posted it, and it's going to be something interesting. So, frankly, I'm looking for something that's about 20 or so minutes of audio, and I'm not entirely sure if I've got 20 minutes of audio quite yet. I'm pretty sure I don't, so I'm gonna keep on talking about this concept, right? So it's possible I might cut this to a example of the story, or I might just start making up the story right here and now. And I'm curious what I can do with that. Actually, here, we're going to improv a story, okay? So, on one fateful day, there was a Carrington level event, and the people were raising their pitchforks, so to speak, and were ready to oust all of those in power in violent fashion. Some peaceful, though many were violent. The Carrington level event destroyed all the electric infrastructure. All that was left was quickly destroyed by a Luddite cult that spawned during the revolution. And all that was left was a group of people that were tribalistic in nature. They were compelled to meditate on the highest, the El Elyon, so to speak, while operating with zero electricity. And in the process, they've found that many prophets came to pass, some false, some true. There were figures that otherwise would have been medicated for mental illness, suddenly speaking about spirits, and people began to believe them. And one day, there was a man who had a 40-day fast, and following this 40-day fast, there was a feeling of mania in this person, this man, who believed that he had found himself to be God. And in doing this, he goes over to the nearest baptismal ceremony and chooses to cleanse the last bit of non-godliness from himself to remain purely the one that was capable of that feat, that incredible fast of over a month. And this figure had no literacy. This person, this man, had no ability to read of Jatindranath Das, who accomplished a 63-day fast. So, in doing this, the man believed that he was God, and he walked around, all around his tribe, professing that he was God and that he was the one to take control of the tribe. And the figure that baptized him took an interest in him, using his charisma to further the baptismal process. And over time, the cult of the baptismal figure grew to dislike the man. And the man would go on baptizing people and guiding people to the baptismal ceremony that made him believe he was truly codified as God, to perhaps make others feel a similar way, open to the possibility that others may realize apotheosis. And in this society where there is no longer any technology, no longer any medication other than herbal remedies, literacy plummets, and very few people know how to read. It's been several years after the event. And over time, the tribe comes to fear the figure. They fear the man. And they believe that he might end up becoming a king one day with the following that he has, placing a revolt on the tribe and starting another horrendous situation And the baptismal person looks at this and believes that there's actually an opportunity to sow dissent towards the one that is unpopular and ruling the tribe, and in the process gets beheaded. And then this figure goes on to feel a fear, and the man goes away for a while and comes back and protests loudly and in a way that's impossible for the tribal leader to ignore, because this protest served as a bigger threat than the baptismal figure. So the man gets nailed to wood to die of dehydration, and in the process, the man's followers believe that he had created the universe and decided to come down to Earth to die. And so they continue his teachings. They continue his teachings for several years, speaking of the man as someone who truly was transcendent, explaining the 40-day fast as an example of a miracle, and when that was explained as humanly possible, there was already other miracles attributed to the man. Miracles not attributed during the man's life. So, in the process, the man went through an apotheosis of his aggregate, and this anarcho-primitivist society felt as though there was no need to make modern technology again, to continue the vicious cycle of technology and reproduction of all of these manufactured products. They decided that it was not worth it, that they would sit out and wait for the sun to explode as their God would have intended. So they sat and they waited and they continued indefinitely. Now, is that a bad thing?